my take, and again, you can see the Recreation Commission recommendation was to grant 1 year, but to strongly encourage that they look at merging with one Taylor Little League. I am not sure what I don't think their feelings are positive on doing that, and if not, then we're going to have to make some decisions on how those fields are used, or if they retain that through Taylor South, Brownstown.
Through the chair, is this in essence, are these little leagues having difficulty financially or operationally or manpower-wise?
Not to my understanding.
So, are they in favor? Do they know about this? And where does Little League Incorporated stand as to consolidation?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. We did talk with Little League, on a conference call. They're aware. They weren't aware of the situation. It is now, they have knowledge of the situation because we brought up the point, like Angie did, that hey, these are city fields paid by tax dollar, residents that pay taxes, and now we're basically giving the green light to another community that doesn't have a Little League fields, dedicated Little League fields, to come in and so it's really created a slippery slope. But Councilman Slavin, at the end of the day, some people just can't get along, and that's what the problem is here.
Well, that's been a rival between Taylor North and South for years, and that's
well. Kudos to the other three, though. I mean, I never thought, every Little League president has their, but at the end of the day, they're city fields, and three of them were willing to put their egos aside and get along and create Taylor North, and it actually was really successful. I had my doubts, because I know what they worked it out, and it really benefited in having one Little League in Taylor, because Chairman Geist, when we played, there was 10 teams at Taylor Northwest, per division, and now there's not nowhere near as many kids. So we had 4 Little Leagues that just played its own Little League. They didn't even have to interleague, and there's so many less kids playing now. Plus, you have travel ball really taking a lot of players to where Taylor needed no more than 2, but I think 1 would have been the best idea, and it's a shame that one of the Little Leagues just chose not to do it, and finances have nothing to do with it because that Little League's in good shape.
Through the chair, if you remember, Mr. Mayor, I was there when you were playing ball.
Yes, that's when I first met. I do remember. Councilman Wade.
Through the chair, to all, it was asked why they didn't merge with Taylor North, and to me, we didn't really get an answer as to why they wouldn't merge. And just so you know, the city doesn't control who Little League merges with. That's controlled by Williamsport, so they apply. They were put on notice via confirmed email that before merging that they should come to council. They should go to administration and review the use of fields prior to, and they chose not to. They chose to proceed with the merger after being notified that it could be problematic. And if you think back many years ago, Taylor North Central, I hope I said that right, wanted to do a Babe Ruth League where they wanted to do a different, and they were stopped by Recreation Commission and the administration to say, you don't get, these are city fields, you don't get to choose what to do before going through the proper channels. To me, they were told, and again, so we're being fair, I think, by giving them a year, but I think we really need to look, we're going to ask for stats back to the Recreation Commission of what their demographics of their league looks like. Because the 2021 numbers I had showed predominantly Brownstown. Maybe they'll show something different. I mean, maybe it'll be predominantly Taylor, but we're going to ask for those numbers. But for right now, we just want to grant them the 1 year so these Taylor kids can play. Nobody wants to take that opportunity, I think, away from our kids because they have to play there unless they're granted a waiver. Correct, Guido?
Absolutely.
They would have to get assigned.
And that's probably not going to, just so you understand that works, is if you're the president of League A, he's the president of League B, and Jason's my son-in-law, but yearly, but he lives in these boundaries. He'd have to sign off on that player. could probably start having some meetings with council, with the rec commission. Youth sports are kind of growing into this monstrosity of a revenue machine. Not to say that's Little League, school, travel, baseball, soccer, whatever sport you pick. And these are our properties. We probably need to get a better understanding with these presidents and these administrators of these leagues. We appreciate the partnership. We really want you to run these leagues. We appreciate the opportunity you're offering, you're facilitating. But at the end of the day, we have to communicate, and there has to be some understanding of how things get approved. And before you move forward and make these organizational decisions that change the whole scope, obviously it's baseball, but the attendance, who's going to be participating, how much are you charging, et cetera, how do you do the fund. We probably need to have a little part in that and make sure there's a good dialogue and there's some requirements that have to be met each year before the season starts.
Sure.
Councilman.
Okay, so this is for this year because, you know, the people are already registered. So what is that deadline so we know what it is, so we're not going into the next year? So this is February, right? So when were those paid or?
So we are, I believe we said July something. We're gonna ask for some preliminary numbers in July of 2022.
And we can obtain those through the database. Little League has a database that has to be submitted by each league of players, information, residency, and things of that nature. And then I think that probably we'll have to put something together with the rec commission and probably start on this in April or May and just get everything rolling. And it's not just going to be exclusive to Taylor South. All leagues are going to have to start to comply and work through the city to make sure, you know, insurances, all the requirements, everything's met, and we'll be good partners with each other. So I would probably like to start to formulate that in the near future, if that would be.
I'm sorry, I did have one other thing I had thought of, just so, Brownstown Little League, my understanding as they were before was using the two fields at Arsenal Park, and they were actually paying the school district to use fields through the school district as their Little League field.
Well, and I know my son is not playing against our neighbor, right? Same, live in the same area, and of course, you know, we moved, and if Little League is listening, we grew up within the Taylor Northwest boundaries, but I've agreed to it for 1 year. I'd like to see Taylor United. 100%. And I don't think that I would vote for this again next year.
I agree.
Any further discussion from the council?
Thank you.
All right, next is the annual library report. Any questions? Hearing none. Yeah, if there's any questions on what I passed out, what I was trying to convey is that the last time the people of the city of Taylor weighed in on what the compensation was for any of us was in the charter. If you multiply those salaries by the consumer price index, that would say that the mayor should be, in equivalent dollars, should be paid $150,000. Salary under this, at its max, is back to 2008 levels. So there was significant reductions while the city went through, and everybody went through the financial turmoil back in 2009, 10. So the mayor would be at 70% of, again, that adjusted inflationary amount. You can see the other relative percentages. By and large, you know, everything else is at about that 70%, just adjusted for inflation. And I did speak briefly to one of the compensation commissioners. These have been kind of shot down, and they put a nominal amount on. I know in particular